Tashi, welcome to all. विदुत कल्पना जाल गंभीर उदार मूर्तये नमः समंद भद्राय समंत स्फुरनतिशे. Venerable Sangha, His Eminence Professor Samdhong Rinpoche, respected Dr. Thiyagarajan ji, distinguished guests, respected participants and friends. At this sacred land of Buddha, the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom is hosting a two-day conference exploring the Tibetan and Indian ancient wisdom traditions. To commence the proceedings, I would like to invite the Venerable monks of the Namgyal Monastery to recite the Mangalacharana. Thank you very much, Venerable monks. In Tibetan tradition, we welcome the guest with an offering of kata. To do this honor, may I request Khensur Tashi, the director of the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Ancient Eastern Wisdom, to offer kathaks to Most Venerable Professor His Eminence Samdhong Rinpoche, Dr. Thiyagarajan, and Kungo Tempa. Thank you, Khensur Rinpoche. The following this, may I request Kongo Tempa Tsering, the Chief Project Coordinator of the Dalai Lama Centre, to welcome our distinguished guest, Kongo Tempa, please.
Dr. Thiyagarajan, District Magistrate of Gaya, Professor Samdhong Rinpoche, Chairman of the Dalai Lama Trust, Khensur Tsering, Director of the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Ancient Indian Wisdom, Mr. Chimin Rinzin Chujaba, Secretary, Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, distinguished speakers, panelists, and honored guests. Good morning and Tashi. On behalf of the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom, Bodhgaya, I extend a warm welcome to you all to this national conference of the Centre. As many of us know, one of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's favorite prayers is, "For as long as sentient beings remain, for as long as sufferings remain, may I too remain to elevate human beings from suffering." Guided by this commitment, His Holiness has spent over 7 decades traveling around the world, engaging with millions of people. His message has been simple yet profound. While external progress is valuable, it must be balanced with inner development. True well-being does not come solely from wealth or power, but from cultivating inner peace, compassion, and ethical responsibility. He advocates for a holistic approach to life, one that integrates both mind and the heart. In this connection, His Holiness feels that modern education system is far from adequate. Despite rapid advancement in science, technology, and material wealth, today the world faces profound challenges: rising conflicts, social divisions, environmental crisis, and a growing sense of dissatisfaction. Many struggle with stress, anxiety, and lack of genuine happiness. At this critical juncture, His Holiness emphasizes the need to cultivate kindness, gratitude, and a deep awareness of our interconnectedness. These values are not tied to any particular religion, but are fundamental to human survival and harmonious coexistence. India, one of the cradles of ancient civilization, has highly evolved understanding of human psychology and mind-tuning techniques, wisdom that is more relevant today than ever. His Holiness often refers to himself as a son of India, affirming that his intellectual, spiritual foundation is deeply rooted in Indian wisdom. While much of this knowledge originated in India, it has been preserved intact by the Tibetan people for many hundreds of centuries. To uphold and share this timeless knowledge, His Holiness is establishing the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Ancient Indian Wisdom in Bodhgaya. The centre will serve as a global multidisciplinary institution conducting education, research, and programs that promote the study of ancient Indian philosophy and Tibetan wisdom. It will offer learning opportunities for people around the world to study the philosophy and vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama as well. It will also provide an international training ground for mind training techniques integrating Buddhist science of mind merged with modern science. A comprehensive library, an experiential learning museum, and state-of-the-art facilities to create a conducive learning environment. His Holiness teaches if we wish to see a more peaceful and a compassionate world, change must begin within each of the 8 billion human beings on this planet. The center aspires to become a space where individuals as well as communities can work towards this transformation, awakening human potential to address humanity's challenges and heal divisions. The center will work in close collaboration with leading institutions mostly founded by His Holiness. These include the Dalai Lama Institute for Higher Studies in Sarnath, the Dalai Lama Institute for Higher Education in Bangalore, the Mind and Life Institute in USA, Secular, Emotional and Ethical Learning in Emory University, Tibet House in Delhi, the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives in Dharamsala, Compassion Center in Canada, etc. Currently, the construction of the center is in progress. However, high-level curriculum committee has been instituted, carefully drafting course content through extensive discussion and consultations. Over 30 potential teachers have been identified and will undergo training. Meanwhile, under the leadership of Director Venerable Geshe Tsering, the center plans to launch online courses along with selected teachers. In short, the core mission of the center is to contribute meaningfully to the well-being and happiness of humanity by preserving and promoting ancient Indian wisdom. Here I would also like to take this opportunity to express how deeply grateful we are to the generous support we received from various organizations, philanthropic individuals, and in particular the Government of India and the Bihar state government. To the Tibetan people, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is their supreme spiritual leader. He symbolizes all our hopes and aspirations. And also today, he is one of the most respected, admired, and beloved spiritual leaders in the world. He embodies ideals of peace, compassion, universal responsibility, religious and social harmony. To realize his vision for the world, we appeal for continued generosity and support of everyone to facilitate and expedite that human beings become more compassionate and caring, and that the world becomes a more peaceful and a happier place for everyone to coexist in friendship and in harmony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kongo Tempala. Now we have a message from the Deputy Director General of Indian Council for the Cultural Relation on behalf of the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. May we have the video played now, please?
Is to be part of the inaugural session of the first academic conference being organized for the next 2 days at the Dalai Lama Centre for the Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom in Bodhgaya. The name of the center itself signifies the deep and organic connect between Tibetan and Indian ancient wisdom. His Holiness the Dalai Lama regularly mentions that one of his life's missions is to preserve and promote the Nalanda tradition of Buddhism. It is a historical fact that Buddhism was introduced in Tibet by monks and scholars from Nalanda University centuries ago. Tibetan Buddhism has deep roots in the Nalanda tradition. The Nalanda tradition is derived from the works of great masters of Nalanda University, including Nagarjun, Chandrakirti, Aryadev, Shantarakshita, among others. His Holiness has said a number of times, and I completely agree with him, Nalanda tradition is not a religion. It is a science of mind. The Nalanda tradition promotes examination, rationality, critical thinking, and deep study of the teachings of ancient masters. Instead of blind faith or unquestioning belief in scriptures, it encourages the practitioner to develop the skills of analysis. I'm glad that a center which promotes these aspects of Tibetan and Indian wisdom is being set up in Bodhgaya, very close to the place where Siddhartha Gautam attained enlightenment and became Buddha. We are privileged to host the center in this holy place. Coming to the conference, I'm told the deliberations over next 2 days will focus on the value and relevance of ancient Indian and Tibetan wisdom for today's world, while further delving into the aspects of the nature of reality, consciousness, logic, and epistemology, psychology, and the contemporary applications and role of these concepts and practices in today's society. I must say this conference is very timely. In today's world, driven by materialism and consumerism, we often seek happiness and pleasure outside our being. Happiness, it seems, has become external. The topics being discussed at the conference will make us turn inwards and look within ourselves for solutions and contentment. and peace. That is something worth pursuing. Academic and research activities like this one at the center will allow not just monks but lay people to benefit from ancient wisdom and apply it to our lives. This, in my view, will be its greatest contribution to humanity. I firmly believe that from individual peace comes world peace. Right? With the guidance and support of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, I have no doubt that the center will turn into a world-class institution. I convey my best wishes on my own behalf as well as on the behalf of the government and people of India for the success of the first academic conference at the center and look forward to its fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
On behalf of the center, I express gratitude to the Deputy Director General of ICCR. And now we have His Holiness Dalai Lama has very kindly sent a message for this significant event. May I now invite Kongo Tempala, the Chief Coordinator of the center, to read the message of His Holiness Kongo Tempala.
I have been asked to present His Holiness's message, the message. It gives me great pleasure to see that the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom in Bodhgaya is to hold an inaugural All India Conference taking place from April 3rd to 4th, 2025. I send my greetings to all the participants. The Buddhist science, philosophy, and religion that came to Tibet from India have shaped the mental thinking of the Tibetans over successive generations. They include a thorough understanding of the workings of the mind and emotions. It's rooted in the long-standing Indian principles of compassion, karuna, and doing no harm, ahimsa. I have found that cultivating a warm heart has enabled me to achieve peace of mind, something I am committed to sharing with others. Tibetans have been custodians of this ancient wisdom for over 1,300 years. In the aftermath of Chinese communist takeover of Tibet by force, we faced many ups and downs. However, in exile in India, we were able to establish a firm foundation that the preservation and promotion of our religion, culture, and knowledge. I have been able to hold discussions with other religious leaders and realized the importance of interreligious harmony. Similarly, my curiosity about science since childhood has prompted a long series of dialogues between Buddhist science and modern science that have been mutually beneficial. The center's plan is not to merely draw attention to the ancient Indian wisdom, but to see how it can be merged with modern science and technology, through which we see much potential for contributing to a safer, happier, and more harmonious world. I feel India's ancient knowledge, when approached from a secular academic perspective, can be combined with modern education in a fruitful way so that a more integrated and ethically grounded way of life can be promoted within contemporary society. Conscious of the importance of education that nurtures the heart as well as the mind, I have encouraged initiatives such as social, emotional, and ethical learning. In today's increasingly integrated world, technology has reduced both physical and mental distances between us. This also provides the center with the opportunity to find creative ways to undertake our activities in the years to come. I wish the conference all success and would like to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the Government of India and others for their support to the center. Dalai Lama, March 12, 2025.
Thank you very much, Kongo Dembala. Now, we are fortunate to have Dr. Thiyagarajan, DM of Gaya, with us here as the chief guest. He has kindly accepted our invitation and given us time from his busy schedules. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Thiyagarajan to deliver the chief guest address. Dr. Thiyagarajan, sir.
The respected Khensur Tashi Tsering Sahab, His Excellency Professor Samdhong Rinpoche Sahab, respected Tempa Tsering Sahab, the Deputy Director of the Institute, Mr. Karma Chungdak, Secretary BTMC, Venerable monks, various scholars who are here to participate in the inaugural All India Conference of the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom. It is my pleasure and privilege to be part of this conference. It is indeed a historical institute. It is an institute which arose out of the imagination of His Holiness to collaborate and bring out the best of ancient Indian and Tibetan knowledge and wisdom. The state government has always been supportive and has gladly shared a lot of resources with the Dalai Lama Trust for the development of the institute. We all know the Honorable Chief Minister shares a deep bond with His Holiness. The state government has given 30 acres of government land free of cost to the Dalai Lama Trust for the development of the institute. In addition, the 30 acres in which the institute is being built, the stamp and the registry costs, which were of huge value, were waived off for the benefit of the institute. Additionally, logistics and infrastructure costs have also been taken care of. But no value can be attached to the deep bond that the state government shares with His Holiness and the will to promote His Holiness values and teachings, which, as I said, cannot be calculated in monetary terms. Today, it is indeed a historic occasion where the activities of the institute have been set in motion. It is really heartening to see the scholars who have come from far off countries, far off regions of the country, India, to assemble here and talk about various relevant issues. The Institute, as I learn, fosters the values of compassion, it aspires to be a beacon of knowledge, fostering understanding, compassion, and peace in a world seeking solace and meaning. It fosters universal human values of love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness, and tolerance, transcending religious boundaries. The center will not only be a repository of inestimable knowledge, but also a physical manifestation of the deep bond that the city and His Holiness share. We all know, and we every year eagerly look forward to His Holiness arriving to this holy city, and the state government always extends the best of facilities and courtesies to His Holiness. The center will serve as a profound symbol of the enduring bond between Bodhgaya and His Holiness, embodying a legacy of spiritual, cultural, and intellectual significance. While the center will reflect all these commitments, its establishment specifically aligns with His Holiness' goal of raising global awareness of the profound wisdom of ancient Indian and Tibetan knowledge systems. It is heartening to learn that very relevant topics like the value and relevance of ancient and Indian and Tibetan wisdom for today's world, nature of reality according to Indian philosophical schools, nature of consciousness, logic and epistemology in Indian and Tibetan thought, the philosophy of language in Indian and Tibetan traditions are all part of the topics to be discussed. It is also heartening to learn that this conference will bring together leading scholars specializing in the diverse philosophical systems of ancient India and Tibet. It is a pleasure to know that the proceedings of the conference, including key discussions and findings, will find a part in a comprehensive volume, ensuring that the knowledge shared reaches a wider audience. It is once again a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of this conference, and I really thank my good friend and learned scholar Tempa Tsering Sahib for inviting me in this conference, and again thank His Excellency Samdhong Rinpoche Sahib, Khensur Tashi Sahib, all the august audience for patiently hearing me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thiyagarajan ji. Now, we are honored to have His Eminence, Professor Samdhong Rinpoche, with us at this important event. Everyone knows about Rinpoche, and there is no need for me to add anything further. I won't take more of your time. Let us listen to Rinpoche's profound wisdom. May I now invite the most venerable, my Shraddheya Guru, Professor Samdhong Rinpoche, to deliver the keynote address.
Namo Ratnatraya, Namo Avalokiteshwaraya. Shraddhe भिक्षु एवं भिक्षुनी संघ, स्वामी वृंद, जिलाधीश महोदय, खैंसुर टशरिंग जी, इस संस्था के नए नियुक्त निदेशक कसु टेम्पा त्सरिंग, श्री कामा चुंगदाक और सभी संस्था से जुड़े हुए कार्यकर्ता और विभिन्न जगह से आए हुए सभी अतिथि और विद्वत वृंद, सबका अभिनंदन करता हूँ। क्षमा चाहूँगा, वृद्ध आदमी होने के कारण मैं बैठकर आपसे वार्तालाप कर रहा हूँ, आपकी अनुमति होंगे। इस कार्य सूची में लिखा है कि हम की नोट एड्रेस देंगे। मेरे मित्रों को मालूम है कि मेरा एक वाक्य बहुत प्रसिद्ध है, ना तो मेरे पास की है ना मेरे पास कोई नोट है, किस ताला को खोल सकें या किस नोटबुक से पढ़ाया जा सके। मेरे मित्र लोग इस वाक्य को हमेशा संदर्भ देते रहते हैं, तो आज भी वही सही बात होंगी, क्योंकि की नोट एड्रेस देने के लिए तैयारी करना पड़ता है, जिसकी क्षमता मेरे पास नहीं है। और विषय भी एक नहीं है, विभिन्न विषयों की समूह होने से किस बात पर ताला खोला जाए या किस बात पर बंद किया जाए। तो इसलिए मैं अपने कुछ स्वाभाविक की चिंताएं हैं, उनसे आगत विद्वानों से साझा करना चाहता हूँ और आपकी विमर्श और सुझाव इस सभा के माध्यम से या व्यक्तिगत माध्यम से धीरे धीरे लेना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि ये प्रथम इस संस्था की शैक्षणिक कार्यक्रम है अखिल भारतीय सत्र की। तो ये कोई विशेष शैक्षणिक शोध बिंदु को लेकर के आयोजित नहीं था। इस संस्था के भविष्य को लेकर या व्यवस्था को लेकर कुछ लोगों के सुझाव और विमर्श प्राप्त करने की उद्देश्य ज़्यादा ही था। आप सोच सकते हैं कि इस तरह के विचार विमर्श तो पहले ही हो जाना चाहिए था। अब संस्था निर्माण अधीन है, लगभग तैयार हो रहे हैं, तो आप इस समय पुनः विचार करने की कोई आवश्यकता भी नहीं है, प्रासंगिकता भी नहीं है, गुंजाइश भी शायद नहीं है। ये बात सही है। जिस मार्ग में हम चल रहे हैं, इस मार्ग में आगे ही बढ़ते रहना है, पीछे हटने की कोई प्रश्न नहीं उठता है और ये मेरे आशय भी नहीं है। फिर भी इस विद्वत मंडल के माध्यम से मैं आश्वासित करने के लिए 3% आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूँ, जिससे मेरे अपने जो मानसिकता है उसमें थोड़ा स्थिरता आवे या ठोस आधार मिले, ये मेरी इच्छा था। जैसा आप सबको विदित है कि परम पावन जी बहुत वर्षों से इस प्रकार की एक संस्था की परिकल्पना कर रहे थे, तो पिछले 2-3 साल में साकार हो पाए। भारत सरकार की सहयोग, आर्थिक सहयोग से, और बिहार सरकार की, जैसा अभी जिलाधीश ने कहा, विशाल क्षेत्र भूमि दान में दे करके इस संस्था की स्थापना संभव किया। बिहार सरकार की और केंद्र सरकार की बहुत बड़ा इसमें योगदान परम पावन जी की सपनों को साकार करने के लिए दिया है। अब हम उसको आगे बढ़ना है। इसका उद्देश्य है प्राचीन बौद्ध भारतीय विद्याओं को अध्ययन शोध आदि से संवर्धन और संवर्धन करने की कार्य हम कर सकें, जैसे दलाई लामा जी की परिकल्पना है। मेरे संपर्क अनेक प्रकार की लोगों से होते रहते हैं, और जिस समाज में हम अभी रह रहे हैं वो समाज विचित्र किस्म की मिश्रण है, जिसमें परंपरागत वाले भी हैं, कठोर परंपरागतवादी भी हैं, और अति आधुनिक वाले भी हैं, और कट्टर आधुनिकवादी भी हैं। इन सब की विचारों से प्रतिदिन सामना करना पड़ता है। तो संक्षेप में कहें, समय की मर्यादा को देखते हुए, तो पहला प्रश्न ये है कि प्राचीन बौद्ध भारतीय विद्याएं हैं, उसकी संरक्षण और संवर्धन की कोई आवश्यकता या कोई उपयोगिता है कि या नहीं। बहुत लोगों का मानना है कि ये सारे विद्या समय के साथ नहीं चलते हैं, इन सब का अपना अपना समय समाप्त हो चुके हैं, और ये वर्तमान मानव समाज के लिए इसमें कोई उपयोगिता नहीं है। तो इसलिए ये जो ह्रास हो रही हैं, समाप्त हो रही हैं, ये प्रकृति के नियम के साथ ही हो रहे हैं। ना तो हम इसको बचाने की चेष्टा करने से कोई लाभ है, ना इससे कोई समाज को लाभान्वित होंगे, ऐसा विचारधारा वाले भी कम नहीं हैं, और उनका अपने किस्म की तर्क और हेतु भी प्रस्तुत करते हैं। उनके तर्कों को, हेतुओं को विचार करना भी अनावश्यक नहीं मालूम पड़ता है, उसको विचार करना चाहिए। तो पहला प्रश्न ये है कि क्या इसकी उपयोगिता क्या है, आवश्यकता क्या है। और दूसरा प्रश्न है, अगर इसका उपयोगिता हो या आवश्यकता हो तो क्या ये संभव है। वर्तमान परिस्थिति उपभोगवाद और भौतिक तथाकथित वृद्धि मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ, विकास का शब्द थोड़ा बड़ा है। विकास करना संभव नहीं दिखाई देते हैं, कितना भी आधुनिकता बढ़ जाए, लेकिन विकास की जगह वृद्धि की ही कम हो रहा है। तो इस अवस्था में प्राचीन विद्याओं को संरक्षित रखना और संवर्धन करना प्राकृतिक रूप से संभव नहीं है। अंग्रेज में कहते हैं डेट एक्सपायर्ड, आउटडेटेड। तो ये क्या सही है? ये दूसरा प्रश्न था। और तीसरा प्रश्न है, अगर इसकी आवश्यकता है, इससे मानव समाज को लाभ होगा और हमें करना चाहिए, तो इसका विधि क्या होगा? किस माध्यम से, किस उपाय से, किस कुशलता से हम इस कार्य को, जैसा परम पावन जी की परिकल्पना है, उसको साकार करने के लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए, कैसा करना चाहिए? ये 3 प्रश्न बहुत दिनों से हम लोगों के सामने आते रहते हैं। मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से इसकी आवश्यकता को भी मानता हूँ, इसकी संभावना को भी मानता हूँ, और इसका विधि क्या होना चाहिए, इसमें कुछ स्पष्ट हैं, कुछ अस्पष्ट हैं, तो आप लोगों से सलाह लेना होगा। संभावना मैं इसलिए मानता हूँ कि मेरे अपने जीवन के अनुभव से मैं नितांत 7वीं शती की सभ्यता में अपने को जीता हूँ और अपना जीवन व्यतीत करता हूँ। फिर भी मुझे बहुत कठिनाई नहीं मालूम पड़ता है कि 21वीं शती की उपभोगवाद की मानव समाज में आचरण करने की और रहने की बहुत ज़्यादा कठिन दिखाई नहीं देते हैं। तो इसलिए प्राचीन भारतीय विद्या संरक्षण और संवर्धन करने की संभावना है। 22वीं 23वीं शती में भी इसको संरक्षित रखा जा सकता है ऐसा मुझे लगता है। उपयोगिता को भी मैं इसलिए मानता हूँ कि मानव मात्र भौतिक सुविधाओं से, शारीरिक सुख सुविधा मात्र मनुष्य जीवन की पुरुषार्थ नहीं है। एक ही जीवन के पुरुषार्थ को भी देखा जाए तो वो काय और चित्त दोनों की सुविधाएं चाहिए, मात्र काय की सुविधा से बनते नहीं हैं। तो ये भी एक साक्षात अनुभूति सबको होता ही है। तो इसको कैसा किया जाना चाहिए, उसकी माध्यम क्या होगा, इस पर अब लोगों की विभिन्न परंपराओं की, संपदाओं की, मतों की अपना अपना राय होंगे, अपने अपने विद्या होंगे, उनसे हमें अवगत कराया जाए और आपके विमर्श हमको मिलते रहें। ये कि आकांक्षा मैं रखता था। तो सौभाग्य से आज विशाल विद्वत वृंद यहाँ पर एकत्रित हैं। आपके सुझावों के लाभ से हमें दिशा निर्देश होगा, ऐसा मैं आशा रखता हूँ। और उसके साथ साथ प्राचीन भारतीय विद्या में बौद्ध पूर्व के शश दर्शन परंपरा से लेकर के 20वीं शती तक की जो विकासित विभिन्न परंपराएं धर्म, दर्शन और साइंस के संप्रदाय रहे हैं, उन सब को पहचाना और उन सब की विद्या की स्रोतों को और विशेष रूप से इस समय उपस्थित विद्वानों की पहचान करना, उनके मार्गदर्शन प्राप्त करना, साहित्यों को उपलब्ध कराना और उपलब्ध साहित्यों को किस प्रकार से जनमानस में लोकप्रियता वृद्धि करने के लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए, कैसा करना चाहिए। अब सबको मालूम होगा कि ये संस्था एक मूल धारा में चलने वाले उपाधि प्रदत्त करने वाले, परिचय लेकर के विभिन्न उपाधि प्रदत्त करने वाले एक विद्यालय संगठन नहीं है। ये कोई यूनिवर्सिटी इंस्टीट्यूशन या एकेडमिक कोर्सेस जहाँ पर चलाया जाए विभिन्न उपाधियों के लिए, डिग्री के लिए, उससे हट करके एक अनौपचारिक रूप से विद्या को विद्या आकांक्षी लोगों के पास तक बिना कोई व्यवधान के सीधे पहुंचाया जा सके, जिसमें कोई प्रवेश की शर्त ना हो, परीक्षा की बोझ ना हो और उपाधियों की अहंकार भी ना हो, परंतु सीधे जिस प्रकार से अध्ययन, गवेषणा, शोध अथवा रचना जो भी करना चाहें, जिसको हम यथाउचित, यथावश्यक और यथासंभव सुविधाएं प्रदान कर सकें, जिसके लिए पर्याप्त ग्रंथालय हो, प्रयोगशाला हो और प्राचीन स्रोतों को उपलब्ध करने के लिए विभिन्न माध्यम से सहायक हो और गुरुजनों की साक्षात्कार कर सकें, विभिन्न विषयों की परंपरागत विद्वानों का जो अभी जनसाधारण में चिन्हित नहीं है, लोकप्रिय नहीं है, उन सब की सहयोग ले सकें, ऐसा एक कार्य करना चाहते हैं। तो इसलिए आज और कल 2 दिन के ये सम्मेलन, जिसमें विषयों पर शोधपूर्ण व्याख्यान और निबंध पाठ तो होगा ही, और समय समय पर अनौपचारिक रूप से बैठ करके इसके लिए पाठ्यक्रम का निर्माण कैसा होना चाहिए, पहले से कुछ काम चल रहे थे। आचार्य समधन जी बहुत दिनों से इसमें लगे हुए थे, तो उनको कैसा उपयोग में लाया जाए, भविष्य में कैसा होना चाहिए, और विभिन्न विषयों की विद्वान, आधिकारिक विद्वान कहाँ कहाँ पर मिलेगा, उनसे संपर्क करने की सूत्र कैसा होगा और किस प्रकार से अध्ययन अध्यापन शोध की कार्य को सुव्यवस्थित करना चाहिए, क्या क्या सुविधाएं जुटाना चाहिए, इन सब के विषय में अब लोगों से सुझाव प्राप्त करने की मैं उम्मीद रखता हूँ। और आज जो यहाँ उपस्थित हैं उन सब के साथ इस केंद्र की एक स्थायी रूप से संबंध और वार्तालाप बने रहें। जब जब कोई चीज़ की मार्गदर्शन की आवश्यकता हो तब तब हम सीधे आप लोगों से संपर्क कर सकें और आप लोगों की सहायता ले सकें, इसका भी व्यवस्था करना मेरे मन में था। और इसकी जो परिकल्पना, निर्माण की परिकल्पना लगभग हम लोगों ने किया है, उसमें भी आपको सुझाव महत्व रहेंगे। कौन सा चीज़ किस प्रकार से, किस विषय के लिए, किस संप्रदाय के लिए, किस दार्शनिक की परंपरा के लिए क्या चीज़ होना चाहिए। विशेष रूप से ग्रंथालय के निर्माण में दुर्लभ पांडुलिपियों को और ग्रंथों को कैसा प्राप्त किया जाए और कैसा संग्रह किया जाए, इस पर भी आपके सुझाव की आवश्यकता है। परम पावन जी ने, परम पावन दलाई लामा जी ने पिछले 65 वर्षों में भारतवर्ष में निवास करके संपूर्ण जगत के लिए अनेक महत्वपूर्ण आध्यात्मिक और सामाजिक उत्थान के लिए कार्य किए हैं। सब अपने अपने स्थान पर सफलता प्राप्त हुआ है। तो इसलिए यह कार्यक्रम भी सफल होगा, इतना तो मुझे विश्वास है। लेकिन उसको सफल और अति सफल करने के लिए हम लोग जितना भी अधिकतम योगदान दे सकते हैं, इसमें कोई कमी ना रहे और इसमें आप सबका मार्गदर्शन और सुझाव न केवल इस सम्मेलन की या सेमिनार के माध्यम से, अभी तो हमेशा आपके संबंध इस केंद्र से जुड़े रहें, ये मेरे अपेक्षा थे। और आज बहुत विचित्र संयोग मैं देख रहा हूँ। मुझे कहा गया कुछ समय पूर्व कि ये संवाद कोई नए बिहार की सांस्कृतिक केंद्र में आयोजित हैं। लेकिन कल मैं यहाँ पहुँचा तो पता लगा कि वहाँ पर जगह स्थिर नहीं हुआ है, तो इस जगह पर हो रहे हैं। 1960 की जनवरी में परम पावन जी प्रथम बार बोधगया में पधारे थे मसूरी से। तो उस समय उनके आवास इस भवन के क्षेत्र में थे, इस भवन में थे। तो हम लोग इस भवन के बाहर उनको स्वागत करने के लिए खड़े थे। मैंने पहले बार परम पावन जी जब आते हैं तो स्थानीय पुलिस के माध्यम से कैसा राष्ट्रीय श्लोक प्रस्तुत किया जाता है, हमने पहली बार देखा। तो उस समय मेरे उपसंपदा भी यहाँ हुए थे, काफ़ी दिनों तक हिज होलिनेस यहाँ रहे। और तिब्बती शरणार्थियों की बहुत बड़ा सम्मेलन भी हुआ, जिससे कई चीज़ निर्णित हुआ और सभी एकजुट रहेंगे, ऐसा दस्तावेज परमात्मा जी को दिया गया। तो ये संयोग भी हो सकता है या संकेत भी हो सकते हैं। तो उस संकेत को देखें तो हम इस कार्य में भी सफल होगा, ऐसा मेरे आस्था है, विश्वास है। विशेष रूप से आने वाले पीढ़ी बहुत भारतीय जो भी हो, इनकी सर्वभौम दायित्व बहुत बड़ा है। सर्वभौम दायित्व इसलिए बड़ा है कि संपूर्ण जगत एक अपूर्वक चुनौतियों से सामना करना पड़ रहा है, चाहे वो प्रकृति का आपदा हो, चाहे वो राजनीतिक और सामाजिक संघर्ष हो, चाहे वो हिंसा की वृद्धि हो, चाहे वो अर्थव्यवस्था की शोषण हो, राजनीतिक और सामाजिक अन्याय हो, इन सब को देखते हुए एक विचित्र परिवर्तन की द्वार पर हम सब खड़े हैं। और इस परिवर्तन को एक प्रकार से सकारात्मक परिवर्तन के रूप में परिणित करना, विध्वंसा के परिवर्तन की ओर से बचाना, ये आने वाले पीढ़ी का एक बहुत बड़ा दायित्व है। उस दायित्व को निभाने के लिए बहुत भारतीय प्राचीन विद्या अपना निश्चित योगदान दे सकते हैं, ऐसा मेरे परिकल्पना है। और उसमें कोई त्रुटि हो तभी बतावें। जैसा मैंने 3 प्रश्न आपके सामने रखे हैं, उन तीनों प्रश्नों का अब सब विद्वानों की अपने अपने मत होंगे। उस मत के अनुसार हमें राह दिखाने की, मार्गदर्शन करने की कृपा करें। इन चंद शब्दों के साथ मैं आप सबका पुनः स्वागत करता हूँ। और आपका ये सम्मेलन एक प्रकार से अंग्रेज माध्यम से चलना था, उसमें मैंने थोड़ा इधर उधर कर दिया, उसके लिए भी क्षमा चाहता हूँ। क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान में बैठ कर के विदेशी भाषा में संवाद करना थोड़ा असहज था, या उसको और थोड़ा दूसरा शब्द दें तो गुलामी की अवशेष जैसा लगता है। क्योंकि जिस गुलामी के माध्यम से, भाषावी गुलामी के माध्यम से संपूर्ण तिब्बत आज जूझ रहे हैं, तो इसलिए हम सबको थोड़ा कभी कभी विचित्र भावनाएं उठते रहते हैं, जिसके लिए आप क्षमा करेंगे। पुनः आप सबका अभिनंदन करते हुए ये 2 दिन की परिसंवाद गोष्ठी सफलतापूर्ण संपन्न हो और ये एक प्रकार से हम सब मिलते रहने की और संवाद करते रहने की एक निरंतर चलने वाले कार्यक्रम का प्रारंभ अब समझें तो अब सबको आगे भी हम कष्ट देते रहेंगे और संपर्क में रहेंगे, जिससे इस केंद्र का कार्य सफलतापूर्ण संचालन किया जा सके। जय जगत।
Thank you very much, Rinpoche, for profound and enlightening keynote speech. The inaugural session is now coming to an end. Before we end, I would like to invite Mr. Chungdak, the Deputy Director of the Center, to deliver the vote of thanks. Mr. Chungdak.
मैं रिम्पोचे से क्षमा मांगता हूँ। इस बार मैं इंग्लिश में थोड़ा सा ये हो गया। नेक्स्ट टाइम जरूर कोशिश करूँगा मैं इस तरह से हो। Happy morning to everyone. As we raise the curtain of this wonderful and enlightening conference, it is my privilege to deliver the word of thanks for the inaugural session on behalf of the Dalai Lama Trust and the organizing committee. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to His Eminence S. Rinpoche for sparing the valuable time to grace the occasion, and 3 questions in keynote address for the deliberation of our 2 days conference. My sincere thanks goes to Mr. Chimirik Zila, representative from Gandepodang Dharamshala, Kongo, the Center Director Khensur Rinpoche, for their guidance and support for organizing this conference. At the same time, I extend my thanks to BTMC Secretary. All the time we have to approach her. So today I'm very happy that you are present here. So I thank Madam Ji and the representative from different monasteries of Bodhgaya for making time to attend this inaugural session. I take this opportunity to express my thanks to the Deputy Director General, ICCR New Delhi, for the message and the encouragement. I also thank all the distinguished speakers, experts, and panelists who have taken time out of their busy schedule to join this conference. Your presentations, insights, and discussion will be incredibly valuable to us and will help broaden our understanding and spark new ideas and inspire all of us to think differently in functioning of the Dalai Lama Centre. We are also deeply grateful to secretaries of Gandepodang and the board member of the Dalai Lama Trust for their constant support and guidance to make this conference a success and meaningful. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Gandepodang AV sections and staff from Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies who came all the way from Dharamshala and Sarnath to assist us and to make this conference a success. My thanks goes to the resort management team also. They really help us. Of course, I understand the culture of the Indians, but still I appreciate their every assistance. Finally, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you who has participated in the opening sessions of 2 days conference. And last but not the least, we wish all the participants for their happy stay in the land of enlightenment, Bodhgaya, and active participation in today's conference. Thank you. And there's a little short announcements there. The draft outline of our museum curator is displayed outside there. During the refreshment, please have a look, and we invite your suggestions, feedbacks, and everything to make that museum block the most wonderful in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kamala. Now I would like to invite all the guests for the refreshment just opposite this, the next hall. Thank you so much.
हेलो 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 दिस से सर करना फोन हो गया
Hello, hello, hello.
चिमी चिमी
Hello, 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 hello.
चिमी
Hello, hello. Chimila, chimila.
माइक माइक
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Chimila Sankhya due. Hello, hello.
हेलो 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 चेक चेक this way hello 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 Jesus 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 Jesus
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
hello,
Hello. Hello.
hello. Hello, 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 hello.
Now we will start the first academic session. The first speaker is Khensur Rinpoche, Tsering. He is, of course, a traditional Tibetan Gishi and very well versed with modernity, and lived for a long time in UK and received many honors and awards, particularly British Empire Model in the Queen's birthday in 2019. So we were fortunate enough to have an academic director who is traditionally trained and also well versed with the modernity. So it is kind of a bridging between the two civilizations. And his title of his Nibband is Nature of Reality. Value and relevance of an ancient Indian and Tibetan wisdom. This booklet is a little printing mistake. Not mistake by people, but printing. It is the computer who have done the mistake. Start, please.
The most venerable Professor Samdhong Rinpoche, the Chairperson, Sankhya members, distinguished scholars, and all the participants. I would like to express my greetings to this conference. And it is a great honor and privilege to share some of my thoughts on this topic, value and relevance of ancient Indian and Tibetan wisdom. When I was given this topic, to share with the many distinguished scholars and great practitioners, I was a little bit hesitated to accept this. But then I thought it is an opportunity to take. So I will try all my best to say a few important points that I feel on these two topics, value and the relevance of ancient Indian and the Tibetan wisdoms. We all know humanity has greatly progressed to relieve sufferings and enhance happiness, particularly after the industrial revolutions. Within that, last 30, 40 years, the development of the external, the needs for the humanity, and particularly from the fields of technology, is something amazing, very fast, and well sort of spread all over the world. Due to that, there's no doubt some of the challenges that we face from the reducing the physical illnesses, poverty, and in the many fields that the progress was great and extremely helpful. That, having said that, our existence is not just physical existence. Our existence has a mental component, and particularly within the mental components, a more deeper consciousness level, not just the sensorial level. And at that area, we haven't made that much progress. And to fill that gap that His Holiness the Dalai Lama says very often, ancient Indian knowledge, wisdom, and particularly the understanding of our inner world is vast, profound, and very well established for many centuries. And from there, people can learn how to fulfill our inner needs, to reduce some of the challenges, inner challenges that we face. Loneliness, stress, discontent, anxieties, and so forth. These mental challenges that we face particularly during this 21st century, just external material development cannot ease or cannot relieve these mental challenges that we face. Instead of to reduce these mental difficulties, some of the modern, particularly the material development alone may cause more mental difficulties. And it is quite obvious if we look at some of those younger generations who have almost all the modern gadgets and things, but still suicidal percentage is very high at the younger generations. And if I'm not wrong, some of those developed countries, they suffer more than I'm talking about the inner difficulties, than the less developed communities and societies. And that indicates just material development alone will not fulfill the human needs. But at the same time, our inner resources have the great potential to ease, to eliminate these mental challenges. And for that, as I just briefly mentioned earlier, the Indian masters, great Indian masters, Buddhist as well as non-Buddhist, past those great Indian masters, as well as Tibetan teachers, have developed some comprehensive framework of understanding of human emotions, thoughts, behaviors, and also really to deal with the main sources of our the difficulties, such as anger, jealousy, envy, discontentment. In that way, these well-structured and well sort of established these trainings, how to deal those inner difficulties is extremely valuable. Therefore, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says very often, it is extremely useful and helpful to create opportunities regardless of different background, different culture background, religious background, or not have any beliefs, but still from these ancient Indian and Tibetan knowledge, people can learn from these well-established the understandings to enhance long-lasting, reliable inner calm, peace, and contentment. These, some of the core values of these traditions, just briefly list like ethical conduct, compassion, mindfulness, equanimity, insight or wisdom. These are extremely relevant to the modern society, and ancient Indian and Tibetan studies have the amazing instructions. For example, the ethical conduct, how to live our daily lives, at least with the less harm to the other living beings and also the environment. Very deliberately, intentionally learning not to cause harm. Also, cultivation of mindfulness or awareness, learning how to pay attention to our actions, our thoughts, our behaviors, and through that to enhance, to promote some of those wholesome virtues, behaviors, thoughts, and actions within ourselves. And when we realize unwholesome, unhealthy, negative thoughts and behaviors are taking place in our daily lives, learn to how to reduce, how at least how to minimize. And these are the techniques are really extremely helpful, regardless of different culture background, different religious background, and so forth. So just giving those short examples, and also cultivation of insight, wisdom, through understanding. Is there any gap between the appearance and the reality? How I perceive things and events and how they are. Many of us, I'm talking about myself, actions, physical actions, verbal actions, and my mental thoughts are very much through what things appear to me. That's my reaction. Not very much how they are. And the cultivation of that kind of insight, learning, to understand the nature of reality, nature of dependent origination. These are something very important knowledge that and study that we have, like logic, epistemology, psychology. These are extremely profound and very well structured and deeply thought, and for generations to experiment which thoughts are constructive and which thoughts, emotions are destructive, and identifying them, and then applying the antidote very diligently, systematically. So these are something very, very relevant to share to the wider community, wider society. Then also, just to give you some short examples, nowadays there are institutions organizations taking some of these very profound, well-established, valuable knowledge, understandings, and thoughts, then delivering based on, the modern, using some of the examples based on scientific finding, and the establishing courses to deliver more in the modern way, in an educational way, rather than the religious manner. For example, the social emotion and the ethical learning, mainly initially for the small children, to learn their own emotions, either positive or negative. Through that, to to learn to pay respect to the classmates and their parents and so forth, like compassion, cultivation training. Very much without any religious element, but with scientific base, and bringing ancient understanding how these to be cultivated. And these are extremely relevant to the modern society, to bring more inner values, to understand the meaning of life. Within many younger generations, due to using social medias and all these modern gadgets, though there are positive, the things that we can utilize, but still, there are also typical challenges, things there too. And for the younger generation, seeing the value of human life, meaning of human inner life is not that straightforward. So these ancient wisdoms will be extremely helpful if we delivered in a skillful way, in a more, through the modern education. These will be extremely helpful for the younger generation. And I'm slowly going to do the conclusion. Conclusion is, there's no doubt ancient Indian, these amazing traditions have a tremendous potential to really to help to the modern societies, and to come together and to learn each other and to develop some form of platform or venue how to deliver these valuable ancient wisdoms to the modern world. And that way, we will enjoy both the material development, which is already there, and also development of inner values. In that, through that, we can enjoy our human lives and living in human society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khensur Rinpoche. This timetable says presentation of the talk 20 minutes, committees and questions 10 minutes. So the 30 minutes is already up, so I keep the comments and questions suspended. Now I request Professor Joshi to deliver the nature of reality according to the Sankhya school. Please.
Hello? It's okay. Thank you, sir. I'm really honored to share dais with such spiritual masters. Spiritually, I may be on the down first step of the ladder, not even worthy to call myself a student, but being there in philosophy and putting some efforts to reach ancient Indian philosophy to my students in Bombay University by introducing some courses where philosophy in the applied form also was introduced to the students, as it was suggested in the previous lecture, that this is a philosophy which is a man-making philosophy. So we introduced courses in yoga theory and practice, certificate diploma, advanced diploma. Similarly, Buddhist studies and Vipassana, certificate course and advanced course. And also Vedanta, with special reference to Vallabha Vedanta, because to study Vallabhacharya, one has to also study Shankara to some extent, and then also the earlier Vedantins. The whole effort was to reach out the cultural heritage in order to make change in oneself. I don't know how far we succeeded, but at least we tried. It's really, as I said, honor to be here. My association with this institution is a long one, because for the first time a program in value education was introduced or thought of by this particular institution, where scholars of different philosophical traditions were participating. And I remember we had marathon meetings to design the program for value education, and I was there for Sankhya and yoga for value education. So all those memories are coming back to my mind, and here is an opportunity to present myself on nature of reality on Sankhya, one of the oldest schools in Indian philosophy, one of the significant schools in Indian philosophy, which is a realist school and a dualist school, considered so important by Advaita Vedanta tradition that Shankaracharya refers to Sankhya as the Pradhana Malla. That is, having defeated Sankhya position, all other schools are automatically defeated. That is what the interpretation is given. This is just to underline the importance of Sankhya school in the Indian tradition. Sankhya school has emphasized even the vernacular dissemination of the culture and the tradition. For example, I come from Maharashtra, so I can mention here the example of Dnyaneshwari, where Saint Dnyaneshwar, when he's speaking about, commenting on Bhagavad Gita, he refers to Sankhya as one of the major schools. So, Sankhya is one of the oldest schools, and the term Sankhya is analyzed or is explained as Sankhya, Charcha, Vicharana. Sankhya, that is number. Sankhya refers to two realities, therefore may be Sankhya. Charcha, it means inquisitiveness, it means discussion, it means having the information. And Vicharana, of course, is educating oneself through asking the teacher and getting the lessons. This is how I look at it, that Sankhya, Charcha, Vicharana is Sankhya. It is a discussion, inquiry into two realities, Prakriti, that is the matter, and Purusha, that is the consciousness. Actually, the tenets are found in the Upanishads like Brihadaranyaka, Chandogya, Katha. Katha is one of the main Upanishads of Sankhya philosophy, as the tradition says, Shvetashvatara. There are these Upanishads where we can find Sankhya heritage. But the main text is Sankhya Karika of Ishvara Krishna, accepted as the construct of Sankhya philosophy, and is presented. So, according to Sankhya Karika and other accounts, the two realities, they are Prakriti and Purusha, as the learned audience knows it, but I have to mention it because the topic under discussion is this. It talks about the 25 principles or 24 principles, let us go to the first fundamental principle of Sankhya, Prakriti, that is the matter. Prakriti and matter are like P and not P. If we refer to logic, the two are extremely opposite of one another. What is there in P is not there in not P, and what is there in not P is not there in P. It's exactly opposite of one another. That is how Prakriti and Purusha. So Prakriti, primordial, pradhana, it is consisting of attributes, sattva, rajas and tamas. These are non-evolute, they are called the Moola Prakriti, they are not evolved, they are already there in Prakriti. And from Prakriti arises the evolution when Prakriti comes in contact with Purusha. Now here lies the problem. I am not referring to the evolution because giving the time slot, if I start talking about evolution, the main question will remain unaddressed. And therefore, if Prakriti we may consider as not P, because it is without any, as a matter, it is not cognitive, and Purusha as P. Why is it that the P and not P feel the need to come together in order to evolve the universe or the world or the product? Now in case of Prakriti, the wish or the desire, the question doesn't come because it is a matter. It is devoid of consciousness. In case of Purusha, nowhere Sankhya Karika mentions that the first, the desire is there in the Purusha, and therefore it started. Ikshaternar Purushaha is not really the position which is there in the Sankhya Karika. The problem is that if there is no desire on the part of Purusha as conscious principle, there is no possibility of having desire for the unconscious principle, Prakriti. And therefore, why and how P and not P are coming together is the problem. And Sankhya is not able to address the problem. It's not that Sankhya is to be blamed. These are the basic philosophical problems. When you are putting forward a philosophical school with plurality, the problem is what is the relation between the plurals. If it is the dual, in the Cartesian philosophy also the problem is what is the relation between mind and body. And even if it is like Advaita Vedanta, what is the relation between that one and the many. So it's a philosophical problem, that the relation between one and many. So actually from Prakriti the evolution starts, and then I won't go into the detail of the evolution. The evolution is mentioned in the paper, but I'll come to Purusha. And why is it that the Purusha Prakriti, they come together? The arguments are put forward here. The arguments are like, for the sake of others, Sangat Pararthatvat. That is, for the sake of creation of the world, Prakriti and Purusha come together. But that, whether that may be the cause. Then Purusha is there as absence of three gunas. There must be some principle where the three gunas are not there. So absence of three gunas, and as a pure consciousness, Purusha is there. And the term Purusha is sometimes analyzed as Purushete iti Purushaha. Pura is the body, and the principle which inheres in the body, that is how sometimes it is called. Then it is as the Adhisthana. Purusha is the Adhisthana, that is the conscious principle, is the controlling agency. As Adhisthana, Purusha is there. And very important quality of Purusha is that Bhoktru Bhavat. It means Purusha is the enjoyer. So Kaivalyartha Pravrutti, also Purusha is there. And Bhogartha Pravrutti, also Purusha is there. So Purusha is as contrasted with Prakriti. And one important thing is that Purusha Bahutva is accepted. And the arguments are given for Purusha Bahutva. It means that conscious principles are many because they inhere in the bodies. But I don't go into all those things because of lack of time. Now we come to Prakriti. And Prakriti, the different combinations are there. The Sattvika, Rajasika, Tamasika. Now the different combinations in different human persons is the reason given for Purusha Bahutva. That there are different Atman or different Purushas, the conscious principles, in which the different combinations of Prakriti inhere. And therefore Purusha Bahutva. Then also Purusha as Bhokta, Bhagavad Gita says you have to, where in the dialogue Sri Krishna and Arjuna is told that you have to transcend the three gunas. In other words, all the functioning of Prakriti, which is characteristic of human personality, that should be left behind, and steadfastness only in pure consciousness. Now whether such a person will be able to act, that also itself is a question. But Bhagavad Gita believes so that such a enlightened soul will be able to act in a very enlightened manner for the sake of betterment of humanity. That is one important thing. So Purusha as Sakshitvam, pure witness, as solitary, Kaivalya, neutral, it is Madhyastha, is Seer, Drishtatva, is non-agent, Akartrutva. So exactly opposite of this is Prakriti, and therefore Prakriti is Kartri, Prakriti is blind, and Prakriti is not for Kaivalya, it's actually an hindrance for Kaivalya, but still the two come together and the world is there. So, as I said, why is it that the P and not P, they come together? They are mutually exclusive. Now they have come together. Now how is it that they will be separated? And they will be separated according to Sankhya only by getting the real knowledge, the true knowledge. Yoga joins Sankhya later. The entire yoga methodology is not mentioned in Sankhya Karika. Even though Sankhya and yoga are mentioned as Samana Tantra, Sankhya Karika doesn't mention yoga. So we cannot, we ourselves can ask the question, can we really assume that therefore discriminative knowledge of Prakriti and Purusha is possible by means of Ashtanga Yoga, which is the allied discipline of Sankhya. So, the problem also is that how do the two opposite polarities they come together, why they come together, and then why and how the separation takes place, and how is it possible that the separation is there. Now these problems, as philosophical problems, there is hardly any answer. If you ask the master will keep silence, and then the pupil has to understand according to his or her own capacity and decode the answer. The answer may be Jnana Marga, or the answer may be Karma Marga, the answer may be Ashtanga Yoga. All these are for realizing what is the real nature. And Indian philosophy by itself accepts multiple methods and explanations of realization, and that is why probably intellectually, spiritually, India feels connected with the Tibetan tradition. Tibetan tradition, that's why I feel that is a very significant tradition in course of Buddhism, no doubt about it, because it has its own tradition of contemplation and realization and yoga, which not only shows the path, but I'm sure that the very positive spiritual resolutions coming from this Tibetan heritage, I'm sure that definitely are and will help for the better world. I'm extremely thankful for giving me the opportunity to present something about Sankhya. It's the old memories getting revived, because in the value education program when I was involved, and I used to contribute on Sankhya and Yoga for value education, the coursework which we had prepared. So thank you very much.
Did your presentation in just in 15 minutes, and we have another 15 minutes for comments and questions. If there's short comments and questions, please provide the mic. Is there comments? Yes, Gishi Jimpa.
Professor Joshi, thank you so much. I've had the honor to listen to your presentation several years ago, during the 50th anniversary of Sarnath Tibetan Institute, when you presented in front of His Holiness. The question I have is, you mentioned this very memorable passage from Shankara that having refuted Samkhya, he has refuted all the Indian systems. Taking that as a kind of a cue, would you say that if you don't understand, if you don't have some basic understanding of Samkhya philosophy, you won't have understanding of Indian philosophy in general?
Yes.
Very important question. The answer is both yes and no. Answer is yes, because this is one of the oldest schools. Answer is yes, because it has a tremendous impact on Vedanta systems. It's not just Shankara. But look at the other systems of Vedanta where they consider world as real. And how are they trying to explain? Again, it clearly shows its impact of Sankhya. They may not be saying it in an outward manner that they are referring Sankhya, because that is but natural. Their claim is that they are putting forward Vedanta. But when the question comes about the status of world and the nature of world, and if you are referring to Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, which is the Indian parlance, I mean the Indian philosophical parlance, even today, and that's why I quoted Jnaneshwari, where Saint Jnaneshwara is referring and categorizing the human persons. He says some persons are Sattvika, some persons are Tamasika, and whereas some persons are Rajasika. And the way in which Jnaneshwari also tries to suggest the paths, in a way refers to Sankhya. And as a student of philosophy, I personally am of the opinion that studying Sankhya and Yoga is very essential to understand the essence of Indian philosophy. Whether it is Jainism, whether it is Buddhism, that is, they are different, as they are classified the heterodox schools, or whether they are the orthodox schools. Because Indian philosophy, without insisting on transformation of personality, there is only one school, maybe Charvaka, which talks in altogether positivistic manner. But all other schools, and therefore, in my opinion, referring to Sankhya and Yoga, because we cannot refer to Yoga without Sankhya. We cannot refer to methods of release without referring to Yoga. And therefore, and the original sources, especially Bhagavad Gita is one of the Prasthanatrayis which are referred to by the later traditions. Upanishads also, take the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, take the Katha Upanishad, even some part of Chandogya Upanishad, which is one of the oldest Upanishads, refer to Sankhya. And if they are not treating world as unreal, if they are treating world as real, then maybe we have to interpret in some other way or part of Vedanta which accepts world as reality, not Shankara Vedanta, or Sankhya way. So impact of Sankhya is inevitable. And when we were doing course on yoga, certificate diploma and advanced diploma in our philosophy department, when I was there, we used to teach Sankhya to some extent to our students to understand the intellectual properties which are operational behind the practical applications of Indian philosophy. So I wanted my students to carry this impression and not to carry the impression that philosophy is dead and gone. It doesn't address to the present problems. I always used to tell my students that look at present as crisis, and philosophy will give you the praxis to solve the problem. And Sankhya and yoga is one of the praxis to solve the problems of. And this is being told by the tradition for centuries together. This is what I feel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shubhada, for that elucidation. I am a learner, so my question may be very elementary. What I understand is that Sankhya is also a school of thought, and you have a Shadadarshana. So, Shadadarshana. So this is one of the darshans. It's one of the schools of thought. So, when you say that understanding Bharatiya darshan, Sankhya becomes, you can't do it without Sankhya, which means that, the Uttara Mimamsa is Vedanta, which is perhaps true that one part when you are saying Vedanta, it may have influence of Sankhya. And is it that the oldest school has influence on all other schools, and therefore Sankhya subsumes all the other schools? Because otherwise these schools of thought are supposed to lead to us to the same truth, or the Satya, the quest for truth, whatever school of thought you take. That's a curiosity I had. Thank you.
Thank you for this thought-provoking question. But the answer will be a little longer. Indian tradition, philosophical tradition, especially the 6 schools, the Shad Darshanas, not all darshanas are talking the language of Prakriti and Purusha. I only quoted Bhagavad Gita. I don't mean to say that all other darshanas. Advaita Vedanta tries to criticize Sankhya as Pradhana Malla because Advaita Vedanta thinks that because of Satkaryavada, that is the theory of causation, it comes very close to Advaita Vedanta. That is the reason. But all other schools, say for example, Nyaya Vaisheshika school, which is a plural, which accepts plurality, the real is plural, and it accepts Asatkaryavada. The theory of causation which is accepted is different. But that theory is not very close to Advaita Vedanta, therefore Shankaracharya says that Nyaya Vaisheshika are already defeated by Sankhyas. So that is the reason why Sankhya is Pradhana Malla. Even Purva Mimamsa emphasizes Yajna Karma. And therefore what is important is the fruit gained by performing sacrifices. Now that also is criticized by all other schools. So Shankaracharya says, why should I put efforts where other schools are already criticized by the other thinkers and other philosophers? And therefore he says that since all others are defeated, so P and Q in one bracket is negated, and therefore I will not think of that P and Q which is in one bracket. I'll think only about that R which is outside the bracket, which is not negated, which is the Pradhana Malla, and therefore I'm negating it. This is how I look at it. But I don't claim that this is the interpretation, because in Indian philosophy there is a possibility of various interpretations. One word, da, is uttered, and it is introduced as daya, dana, damana, and it is accepted by Brahaspati as appropriate answer suited to each one's personality. Damana said by Rakshasas. So Brahaspati said, oh, you have to damana your passions and your desire to trouble others, and so you have to learn compassion. So damana. Daya, well, for gods, because gods are almighty and therefore they have to be more compassionate towards the entire universe. And dana, for the human persons, because they are very miserly and therefore they should give it away, whatever their belongings are. And this dana is still practiced as a part in our tradition in India. But thank you very much for this very thought-provoking question. Thanks a lot.
Discussion. The nature of reality according to the Vedanta philosophy. Thank you. Thank you. All right. The next speaker is Gishil Hador. Please come on the desk. No, pass you, yes.
His Excellency, the chair of the session, Professor Rinpoche ji, my co-speaker, and extremely learned audience, thanks for this opportunity. Thank you, the director and the organizers, and really it's good to be associated with you all. And I was asked to speak on the nature of reality in Vedanta school. And my earlier speaker had already given, a good introduction to that. It's a pretty vast subject, as we all know. I'll touch upon a couple of points and leave you there. As you know, of late, Vedanta came to be understood or dominated by the Advaita interpretation of it. And as you know, there are many other schools of Vedanta which also deal with the same texts and interpret them differently. So I'll start with the position of Acharya Ramanuja, well supported by Vedanta Deshika, and then come to Shankara and leave you there. To start with the Ramanuja's position, I'm referring to Vedartha Sangraha and Sri Bhashya. So before you, what appears as Parinamavada thesis in Ramanuja's philosophy, I'm referring to both Sri Bhashya. Very often you would come across a reference to eternal existence of Prakriti. In his thought, it is uncreated, but is dependent on Brahman or Narayana. Unlike Sankhya, where Pradhana is eternal and is independent of Purusha, the point has been made already. Acharya Ramanuja's Vishishta Advaita, though, it is Advaita school, as we all know, refers to Sukshma Chidachid Vishishta. He starts Vedartha Sangraha with Ashesha Chidachid Vastusheshine, Sheshashayine, Nirmalananta Kalyananidhaye, Vishnave Namaha. It is Ashesha Chidachid Vishishta. And that is uncreated souls and matter form the modes or prakara of Brahman. The very often referred Upanishad by Acharya Ramanuja, both in Sri Bhashya and Vedartha Sangraha, Ajam Ekam Lohita Shukla Krishnam, Ajam, unborn, Lohita Shukla Krishnam, the red colored, the white and the dark complexioned Prakriti. It is unborn, under the influence of the Madhyamikas and the Vijnanavadins. There has been a lot of influence on Gaudapada and Acharya Shankara, but that is not the position of the Upanishad. That's a contention of Acharya Ramanuja, the best critique that you ever have. Mishraji, Godavarish Mishraji knows, Professor R. Balasubramaniam, we used to tell very often that take the name of Acharya Ramanuja with due respect. So that's the best Purupaksha that you have, and the one who ever made best critique of Advaita, and that has to be seen Acharya's Mahapurupaksha in Sri Bhashya. I don't think anybody has added more criticism after Acharya Ramanuja, because of course, except that Ashraya Anupavatti, we have reference in Bhaskaracharya's Bhashya. For the Ashraya Anupavatti seems to have influenced Acharya Ramanuja. But apart from it, his critique is the best that we have till date. And there, it is Chidachad Vishishta, and both are eternally existing, but both are dependent on, this thing. Three possible Vedanta positions, Yadava Prakasha. Brahman undergoes transformation as a lump of clay. That is one Yadava Prakasha's position. We have Ramanuja's Parinama, Vikara, which is Brahma Parinama. As I have already quoted, Ajamekam, Lohita Shukla Krishnam, and Shankara's Vikara, Vikruti, and Vivarta. In some places, you would see him, using Vivarta to mean Parinama and Parinama also. So that difference of what is Parinama and Vivarta, the great distinction seems to have come at a later Vedantins. In Shankara, you see them getting used, Vallabha Acharya's Avikrita Parinamavada, more modification of, minus the Maya thesis. You have a Vallabha's thesis on Avikrita Parinama. So we go now to Vedanta Deshika's criticism. It is like, running with the high speed things, You've given 22 minutes, and then our chairperson, we have seen his response. It means that I have to, stipulate it within 24 minutes and then wind up. Getting in all these positions, God bless the speaker and you all. In JNU, we have a good or bad tradition of speaking 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, unlimited time, And professors, once they get the mic, minimum 2 hours. Anyway, Vedanta Deshika's criticism is in Shatadushani, which was answered by Pandit Ananta Krishna Shastri as Shatabhushani, again critiqued by Raghavacharya. That tradition, if you follow, 100 arguments against Shankara's thesis in Vedanta Deshika. One I pick up, Vada number 15. Vijitam mithya drushyatvat yatha shukti rajatamiti. Vada 15. Vijitam mithya. This is, what is cognized is unreal, like, a dream lion, A, reference to the dream, B, a reference to an illusion, a mirage. Whatever is cognized, it goes by the name Drushyatva Anumana. And Acharya Gaudapada's thesis, if you see, phenomenal nature of worldly existence, it has 4 different parts to his thesis. A, the external world is presented. B, it is similar to dream states. C, unintelligible relations in the external world. D, it does not persist for all times. Therefore, the Ajativada, in Acharya Gaudapada, you would see greater influence of the Vijnanavadins on Gaudapada Acharya, and as the time passes on, the influence seems to get diluted. Vedartha Sangraha, page 72, Acharya Ramanuja. तया प्रकृतिरूपेऽप्यनादिता श्रुतिभिः प्रतिपादिता ajamekam. He is quoting it, page 72. There is one who is unborn, has red, white and black colors and gives birth to many creations similar in form. Shvetashvatara. Mayant prakritim vidyat mayinantu maheshwaram. Again Shvetashvatara. Gita, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi. So you have several references. Earlier Professor Joshi ji has amply put it that there are Vedanta schools who consider, the world as real. And they also have references from the same Upanishadic texts and other Prasthanatraya. Vedanta Deshika. Criticism of Sadasad Vilakshanatva. This is one point where I would spend the next 10 minutes and then leave you there because I have something to say there. Whether at all we can describe a reality as Sadasad Vilakshana. Because Nayayikas have criticized the Vedantins that you can either have something which is real or something which is unreal. This crazy definition of Sadasad Vilakshana looks logically contradictory, as simple as that. Nayayika's criticism and, Vedanta Deshika and other schools of Vedanta as well. This is the criticism that they all have against the Advaitins' definition of an external world as anirvachaniya, indefinable. Criticism of Sadasad Vilakshanatva for a non-Advaitin, this is non-established qualification. This is aprasiddha visheshana. This is Vedanta Sheshika. You don't have it, established that there is something which is Sadasad Vilakshana, which is real and which is also unreal. It is unestablished, aprasiddha. There is no such entity which is neither real nor unreal, but something different from both. That's unavailable for us. Advaitins say, real is that which is not sublated. This is their definition of what real is. It is not sublated. But if it gets sublated, there is a problem for them. As long as there is a dream lion, it is real. But once it is sublated, then it has to be categorized as unreal. Unreal is never cognized. The universe does not fall into above categories, both the categories. Chitsukha says, Swatyantabhava Samanadhikaranyatva Pratiyamanatvam. The appearance of the universe in the same locus where it does not exist at all. Or you understand it as Satya Brahma Vilakshanatvam. Chitsukhi. Satya Brahma Vilakshanatvam. If that is to be the definition of what is real, Ramanuja defines that reality is that which is capable of admitting an empirical usage. Vyavahara Yogyata. It has to be a Vyavahara. Now, where are we juggling with? Now, the problem seems to me, what I picked up, one of the problems is that can you ever define a thing as both real and unreal? I will leave you with something from science later on and a reply from Shankara's Advaitins and little bit from science. I believe I have another 7-8 minutes with me. Adhyaya 2, Pada 2, Brahma Sutra, Shankara Bhashya. If you want to understand the position of Shankara and what exactly the nature of the real is all about, one has to refer to, Pada 2, Adhyaya 2, commonly called Tarkapada. That Shabda is not used there, but commonly understood as Tarkapada. You will find that Acharya Shankara is not equating dream objects with the waking objects. He does not do that. Commonly misunderstood terminology of Advaita is that it is illusion, it is like a dream object, the world is. That doesn't seem to the position of at least Acharya Shankara. Later, you do find such equations in Gaudabada and in Yoga Vasishta and in some other places, but not in Shankara. Let us look at what Acharya Shankara has to say in his Sutra Bhashya. Vaidharmyacha na swapnadivat, Sutra number 29. And on account of their difference of nature are not like those of a dream. The dream objects and the waking state objects are not equated by Acharya Shankara. And The vision of a dream are acts of remembrance, while the vision of a waking state are acts of immediate consciousness. Two sets of ideas we Vedantins maintain cannot be treated on the same footing on account of the difference of their character. They differ as follows. The things of which we are conscious in a dream are negated by our waking consciousness. I wrongly thought that I had a meeting with a great man. No such meeting took place. Similarly, this is a translation of Shankara Bhashya on the Sutra, Vaidharmyachan. This is okay, I can use, I believe so. I wrongly thought that I had a meeting with a great man. No such meeting took place. Similarly, the things of magic illusion are negated by waking state consciousness. Those things, on the other hand, of which we are conscious in our waking state, such as pose and the like, are never negated in any state. Brahmasutra Bhashya, second adhyaya, second pada. What I'm trying to say is that the things of dream objects and the waking state objects are not equated in Acharya Shankara. I hate to use the word illusion even while doing Advaita. That word has acquired such a notorious meaning of late. And then what we have is, next to Sutra 31, Kshanikatvacha, where he is criticizing Vijnanavada, or the so-called Swatantra Vijnanavada. For this apparent world, whose existence is guaranteed by all the means of knowledge, it cannot be denied unless someone should find out some new truth. Acharya Shankara on Sutra number 31. For this apparent world, whose existence is guaranteed by all the means of knowledge, it can't be denied unless someone should find out some new truth based on which he could deny its existence. For a general principle is proved by the absence of contrary instances. What he's trying to say is that, unless someone should find out some new truth, you're not going to deny. By that definition, we have to say even an illusion has to be considered as real, dream object has to be considered as real, and then the waking state objects have to be considered as real unless one has access to some other state of consciousness from where he can actually deny. Avidya is the mother of this phenomenal world. There is that cosmic error. He speaks in terms of a cosmic error. All empirical life as Vyavahara is based on coupling of truth and error, coupling of the real and unreal. As you are all well aware, the Adhyasa Bhashya, the four definitions of coupling of error and truth. Satyanrute maithuni kritya ahamidam mamedam iti loka vyavaharaha. Sthuloham krushoham gauroham iti loka vyavaharaha. Satyanrute maithuni kritya, 1. Smritirupa paratra purva drishtaavbhasaha, 2. Anyasya anyadharmaavbhasaha, 3. Atasmin tadbuddhehe. All those four definitions of what is an adhyasa or a superimposition. It is the coupling of the true and the untrue elements within our existence. The unreal by its very nature is false. It exists as superimposed on the real. Even here, it does not really exist. It appears to exist. It is this characteristic of being neither real nor unreal. Sadasad anirvachaniya. Here is the difficulty. Can we ever describe a thing as, either it is real or it has to be unreal? What is this contradictory description by the Advaitin that it is Sadasad Vilakshana? Here comes to the rescue of this Acharya Shankara and other Advaitins. Here is a rescue from physics. Some point which I felt that it has something to actually support the Advaitins. Otherwise, it looks illogical, to ascribe two different predicates to the same thing. On the one hand, you say it is real, and on the other hand, you are saying it's not real. There is a complementary principle in Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr's quantum physics, please don't ever think that I understand anything there. A couple of good friends of physics that I have, their papers which I happen to edit and publish. This is a principle which I picked up from there. And if Chandogya starts with Sadeva Saumya Idamagra Asit, Udayana in 13th century had a critique. Indefinability means inability to describe anything either as real or unreal. If you go by this indefinability principle, A, strictly mentalistic approaches, no external world exists, have seemed to degenerate into ultra-individualistic solipsism. Nothing exists outside of one's own mind. That has been critiqued by Acharya Shankara. Acharya Shankara's position is very much, against the mentalistic approaches. And B, reduction to a strictly material objective world, no subject at all, fails to account for consciousness. So both the positions were taken into consideration. In doing Sadasad Vilakshana, sir, I have a few more minutes. Niels Bohr uses a metaphor of a blind man with a stick to illustrate complementarity. One end belongs to part of the blind man, other end to the world. If he tightly clutches this stick, he feels it is part of him. If he loosely handles it, he feels it is part of the world. That's an example illustration given by Niels Bohr in order to explain a paradox, which is a sign, and what is the paradox? There was a double slit experiment in science, and in that double slit experiment, what happened by Young was that, generally light seems to show a wavy nature, but in the double slit experiment, it ended up showing the particle nature. That is still a paradox for the physics. Quantum physicists, if there is anybody, it is still a paradox. Why would light show wavy nature? And once an observer is introduced into this situation, once there is an observer, it shows a particle behavior. The double slit became, it's a pretty commonly quoted one. It is the hallmark of a deep truth. Now, what Niels Bohr is trying to say is that two contradictory definitions can be ascribed to a thing. That's what the complementarity principle he brings in. He says that it is the hallmark of a deep truth that its negation is also a deep truth. Wave-particle duality in physics and the two-slit experiment go to show a paradox in this definition as well, to define something as real and at the same time as unreal. Waves and particles present contradictory picture of reality. Ultimate reality transcends space, time, and matter. Our efforts to describe it always fall short. Bohr's complementarity principle, my good friend David Sharp writes, Bohr's complementarity principles involves two or more opposing or contradictory concepts where both concepts are needed to describe reality. You require two concepts to describe reality in spite of their opposition. But even though both are needed, when the opposing concepts are combined in a single picture, the results are self-contradictory or otherwise untenable. What all he is trying to say is that use one concept in one place and use the other one, describe it otherwise. But if you want to go with a conjunction, there you are resulting in a contradiction. There it does result in a contradiction. So it's a fine balancing between these two points. You can discuss the later schools of Vedanta as well, which held that Prakriti is real and is at times dependent, at times independent, of Brahman. And then you can also discuss, the Brahma Vivartavada, the Brahma Parinamavada, the Prakriti Parinamavada, and all the, my earlier speaker was also mentioning to all this. So with this, thank you very much.
You are very much in time. So we have 10 minutes to comments and questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation today. My question was in regard to, you were talking about the dream state. So, for example, dreaming of a lion, that state is considered to be real. And once the dreaming of the lion ends, then it's considered to be unreal. So my doubt was about, you can have situations when you're dreaming where you're not aware of you're dreaming, right? So it feels real when you're dreaming it. And then you can also have situations while you're dreaming that you're aware you're dreaming, right? Like in the situation of lucid dreaming. So during the situation where you're in a lucid dreaming state, is that considered to be real or unreal?
Even, an illusory snake, if Advaitins have to be, believed in, even an illusory snake, as long as it is appearing, has to be understood as real. It's only negated after the verification, So it is, it's like, what you're trying to make a distinction is that one, there is a dream lion, and the other is one is aware of the dream lion. Is that, or if I have to get you exactly, that's a distinction. Mm-hmm. The self-awareness of the dream, that was the second order awareness. One is, yeah. But in either cases, you are in the state of affairs where something is presented to consciousness. Whatever is presented to consciousness is to be understood, or whatever is comprehended by consciousness is not denied. Therefore, it exists. Whether self-aware or whether you're not self-aware, whatever is comprehended by consciousness. In either cases, it is comprehended by consciousness. Your consciousness does comprehend. Whether you are second-order awareness of a self-aware or not, that's, that question we can leave it there. But in both the cases, it is real. But the problem is when one gets into another state of affairs, and when the dream lion is negated, there is the problem for Acharya Shankara. And with the waking state of objects also, is there a state of affairs where even the waking state of things also get sublated? The sublation is a problem for Acharya Shankara. If they get sublated, there is a problem. But as long as one is not in a different state of affairs, the things presented to consciousness have to be accepted. And the things which are not revealed by consciousness are rejected automatically. That's a position that he holds. The difficulty for him in calling the world real is always that possibility of sublation. There is at least a chance of getting it sublated. There is a problem. Otherwise, he doesn't seem to be, against any such description that this is something which is existing on a non-locus, which is an illusion out there. Even when the snake example is given, of course, probably professors must be knowing, it's not there in the Upanishadic language, I believe, Professor. Am I correct? The snake rope example is not there in the Upanishads. It was brought out by Shankara. In the Upanishads, what you have is clay and pots. You have gold and ornaments. Both of them actually point towards a Parinamavada. Both these examples actually point towards a Parinamavada of a transformation. And before Shankara, I don't know the exact text or the philosopher, but there seems couple of places where snake rope example is available. I am really looking for that. Where exactly it was available and which was picked up by Acharya Shankara, or probably he himself has come up. But I wish, a teacher gives one example and it stays for 1200 years. My goodness gracious. Thank you.
Illuminating presentation. I have 3 observations. First one, this Vivarta and Parinama.
Yes, sir.
This has been, like you told that, Parinamavada has been given earlier and Vivartavada comes in between, and there is an attempt to bring those together. Even in post-Sankara Vedanta, this has happened. Like Sarvajnatman says, Vivartavadasya hi purva bhumihi Vedanta vade Parinamavada. So, Parinamavada is accepted. And why Parinamavada is not accepted is because such type of dualistic Samkhya position that this remains there cannot be. But in some way, the Vivartavada and Parinamavada both owe their existence to Ajativada. You see, Ajatim, that is what Gaudapada, Ajati. And it comes again from Nagarjuna. So, this has a continuous tradition. That is
No,
important.
no, Professor, my botheration there was, you can actually throw light. Were they interchangeably used by the Advaitins? That's a point. That's in the initial phase. It means there was no great distinction between Vivarta and Parinama.
Yeah. See, even Vivartate Arthabhad Bena, that which Bhartrihari talks in the first verse of Vivartate means Parinamate. See, there also Vivarta is not Vivarta in the Sankara sense.
Oh, yeah.
See, there are all the
in the sense of Vikara.
Yeah.
Vivarta in the sense of a Vikara, change,
Parinama.
transformation.
And goes back to that another thing you told, the Swapna and Maya. See, this again comes from Gaudapada. Swapna Maya Yatha Drushte Gandharva Nagaram Yatha. You know, this is Gaudapada Karika. And there from this problem comes, so which is again from Nagarjuna. See, the two, so Sambriti and Vyavahara, the Sambriti can, Paramartha and Vyavahara, Sambriti. The Sambriti can always take Swapna. So Swapna can come under Sambriti, but it has become three. So Vaidharmetvat na Swapnadivat. See, later on there are a lot of discussion about that in the post Sankara. This problem comes in Ratan Prabha and other commentary. And the third point you told very well is this Sadasad Vilakshanattva. That again comes from the whole tradition of the Chatuskoti. You know, it comes in Gaudapada, again Sankara brings it. And more than Sankara, the post-Sankara Vedantins like that.
Madhusudana Vidyaranya.
No. It is in Sarvajnatman. It is in the Vivarana school which becomes very clear that this Chatuskoti comes back again in a very strong way, and later Vedantins also have added to the Chatuskoti in their own way. And this is clearly comes from Sankara's Bhashya, that Arambhana Adhikarana, Avidyatmika hi Bija Shakti, Abhyakta Sabda Nirdesha, Mayamayi Mahasusupti. So this is the source where it is. Thank you very much. It was a very good presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. There were only observations, I believe. I don't have to. There is not a question. Yes. But I'm more interested. I would go back and actually search all the texts where actually these sentences come. You know, the words are used. I'm more curious about it. Please, Professor.
There are two things that I want to mention. First of all, thank you for your very thought-provoking paper. You have been talking about this Sadasada Vilakshana and logical impossibility of this kind of description. So is it the case that we accept the logic of binaries, and because of that we have found this self-contradiction? If we go with multi-valued logic, as Nagarjuna has suggested in Madhyamika Karika, Chatushkoti, or Jaina logicians have suggested in their Syadvad, then probably Sadasada Vilakshana will not appear to be that contradictory. That is one thing I would like to have your response. And second thing, you were mentioning about quantum physics. So were you referring to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle? That is light appearing in particle form and wave form also. So was it Heisenberg that you were mentioning?
It was actually, it started with a Young's experiment. Then everybody entered there. Niels Bohr had something to say. David Bohm had something to say. Heisenberg had something to say. Everybody, even, I mean, these last month we had a dialogue at IISc Bangalore. All those physicists were saying, I mean, with no claims of any understanding of it. Except studying physics at BSc, I have absolutely nothing to go back with, really no one. But I liked the complementarity principle, and I thought that helps, that's all. That was the only idea that I have. But more than that, I believe Mishraji is there, Vedantins are there. Vedantins have never relied upon the findings of either physics or biochemistry. They relied extremely either on Shabda Pramana or on Tarka, as you know. So none of them relied upon what the quantum physics is doing, what mechanics is doing. I believe that's that.
So I have just, I have a question of just clarification, okay? Just as...
Sir, Chairperson.
speaker,
We'll catch up, sir.
Gishinadula.
Sir, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello, Rivet. Hello, Singdo. So my respectful pranam to the Chair Rinpoche, and my pranam, I'm using Hindi, okay, I'm pranam to everybody. And my topic is contemporary application of contemplative practice. So I thought before I venture into this topic, I should contemplate about what I'm going to speak. Then I came with a strategy that I'll continue to speak until Rinpoche stops me, so that nobody has time to attack me with questions. So that's the result of my contemplation this morning. And I also must confess that I have nothing new to say, which is probably not a violation of this program, because we are talking about revival of ancient Indian tradition. We are not talking about new initiatives. And there is a very famous saying, if you copy from one book, it is plagiarism. If you copy from many books, it is research. The Tibetans also say, "Chawa thamje lemoi lemo kange khebai." All human activities are imitations. Whoever does the best imitation is called a scholar. And there is even one Tibetan in Tibet, Tibetan scholar really, who said, "Kheba thamje kumai ngani kume gyawoi." So he's really a great scholar. He said, all scholars are thieves, and I am the king of all the thieves. so I'm not saying I'm a scholar, but I like to follow in their line. So first of all, I would like to say a few lines on the importance of this upcoming center. I'm really, really privileged to have this opportunity to participate in this inaugural, conference. At the time of the Buddha, there was no center, as far as I understand. Everybody was, even during the rainy season, retreat, rainy season retreat, the monks come together, but there is no proper learning center. One reason probably was everybody was individually into the practice, into study, into meditation. There is less distraction, more faith. As time went, then centers were needed. Vikramshila came into being, Takshashila came into being, Nalanda Monastic University came into being. So in line with that, I think we are also coming up with center, which I think is very appropriate, because of all the times today we have the greatest distraction and very less faith. And the less faith, when I say the good faith, faith based on ignorance is mushrooming, unfortunately. So therefore, it's very important to come up with a center where we can encourage young people, provide an atmosphere. And as Rinpoche also discussed about these 3 points to contemplate, and I hope some of my talks will touch on that. Another reason is, in many of my talks here and there, I have been asking my Indian friends and others that we need to focus more on the soft power than on the hard power. Unfortunately, because of the situation in the world, we are compelled to maintain the military might and hard power, but India's greatness, and thereby Tibetan's greatness, also should be primarily on the soft power and not on the hard power. Soft power means power of culture, power of understanding and developing the inner resources, which today is extremely, extremely needed in the world. To make a long story short, based on my own understanding, much of the problem that we see around in the world is a clear indication of starvation of human mind. And this has wide-ranging destructive implications. Even when you go around and working towards material, the so-called material development, anything that is physical material by definition is a limitation. So how are you going to make unlimited progress from limited resources? We'll end up destroying the natural resources, we'll end up destroying the minerals, the forest, the water, everything. There's no need for me to expound on it. You go to any big cities, air is polluted, water is polluted, and in those big cities, the so-called intelligent people are living. And we are living in an age of information, and very proudly we say we live in the age of information, but unfortunately much of the information is junk information. People have no idea how to sift from the right information from the wrong information. There's another great tragedy. So the purpose of this center is to help pull out the inner resources. This is not only relevant in terms of the ancient Buddhist and Tibetan tradition, in the Indian tradition, but also according to modern thinkers. Some of the thinkers, they have asked this relevant question, what kind of education we should come up with, say, in year 2050? And they have all said it's very difficult to come up with an education system in year 2050 because things are changing at such a speed, nobody has any idea what kind of education is needed at that time. So while we experience this very difficult to stop speed, then all these scholars, they say that we will, at that time, encounter a huge crisis because you will lose your job, your skill becomes irrelevant with that change, which is actually happening right now. So the only source of solace and solution is if you have developed these inner resources. Otherwise you go crazy, which is happening right now. You look at the compounding mental problems of depression, loneliness, low self-esteem, and whatnot. So therefore, this center will make huge impact in helping people develop these inner resources to pull out when we face these countless problems in our life. In fact, the Buddha's teaching was to address human problems and reduce human sufferings. And let me tell you one short story. At his time, there was a monk called Malukya. He had received some short teachings from the Buddha. And then one day he was early morning meditating in his small hut. And he said, yes, Buddha, I received some teachings from the Buddha, but there were many metaphysical kind of questions which he did not answer. So if he did not give proper answer to these questions, I feel uncomfortable. I may go to switch the teacher and go to other teachers. So he got up and went straight to the Buddha and asked these questions. The Buddha said, have I ever told you that you become my student? I'm not looking for students, number one. Number two, he gave this paradox of the arrow, which all of you know. If somebody shoots an arrow from a distance, from unknown distance, and you are hurt by that arrow, and the arrow is stuck in your body, and blood is coming out, what would you do at that time? Will you just take the arrow out and take needed medication, or ask all the pertinent philosophical questions? From which direction the arrow came, what was the speed of the arrow on the way, by what material the arrow and bow is made of, how strong the arm of that person who shoots, whether he is a moustache or not. If you keep on asking these questions, long before you get the answers, you will be a dead person. So I'm not very interested about asking these metaphysical questions. The world is full of suffering. So I'm here to address this suffering. So true to this teaching of the Buddha, I think this center will make huge contribution in elevating human sufferings. Even in terms of dealing with material needs, as Mahatma Gandhi said, there is enough for everybody's need, not enough for everybody's greed. And it is this greed that is destroying everything today. And when COVID-19 came, we had a lot of difficulties and problems. But at least we were able to come up with some solution with the new vaccination, things like that. But if there is a water crisis, I don't think there will be a vaccination which will solve the water problem. We'll all die of shortage of water. As simple as that. That's one point that I want to make. Another point that I want to make is misuse of human intelligence. Human beings have this amazing brain or intelligence, but we have misused this human intelligence. And when I say misuse this human intelligence, we've used this for dividing people. We've used this human intelligence to come up with ballistic missiles, atom bombs. Just now I checked how many atom bombs and nuclear warheads we had. We have right now 12,119 nuclear warheads. Stupid as we are. And the Buddhist teaching says, you don't have to kill people, they will die. This is what we are going to teach in this center, how to live like brothers and sisters. Recently I had read another small piece where somebody asked this very pertinent question, saying that, are you scared of the increase of artificial intelligence? And he answered by saying, I'm not scared of the increase of artificial intelligence. I'm scared of decrease of real intelligence. Now with this so-called artificial intelligence, there are three levels: the narrow artificial intelligence, the general artificial intelligence, and the super artificial intelligence. Right now we are looming around the narrow intelligence, which is artificial intelligence, which is primarily focusing on one thing, and we may be able to help you a little bit. Then it will extend its activities when you move to the second level, which is called general artificial intelligence. When you move into the third, the super artificial intelligence, then it said that it will far exceed than your ordinary human intelligence. And I'm really scared about this. Because still, at the end of the day, it will be somebody rich with money who will be manipulating that. And this really reminded me this very pertinent writer by Gintu Shumpil. Rangsem nyombe rango mashimbar chosi namsa nyi jachonsam tawdu shabe tuna rimba de tenji jamne shabe nyingamje. There was a very astounding Tibetan scholar, poet. He said, this crazy mind not being able to recognize itself, trying to measure the length and breadth of the earth, the sky, what is beyond, what is within, and especially in the philosophical tradition, we do all this all the time. So he said, in a challenging note, he said, are you going to take refuge in this mistaken state of just exploring and doing nothing? And this reminded me another quotation which said, if you are thirsty, it is 100% sure you need to drink water, but not the whole ocean. So we are really doing like this. I am very, very respectful to all the philosophies, all the traditions which we are trying to revive. I have great respect, but what is lacking is the practice. So the contemplation, mindfulness, meditation, whatever name you put, this is all reducing human problem, human suffering, bringing more harmony, more happiness. And today, happiness is not there. We are all pleasure seekers. We are all running and chasing after the sensual objects. Everybody is saying, I'm busy. Busy for what? Seeking the temporary pleasures, the fragile pleasures. The more and more you chase the sensual objects, the more and more you go away from your real self. And inside, as I already mentioned right in the beginning, you lack all these inner resources, then you suffer from everything. That's the problem we have. So there's a huge and multi-dimensional problem we are facing today, which is really a mental crisis. So this kind of center, as Rinpoche, you mentioned clearly, and we discussed this several times, this center that we are coming up with is not another university to get degrees and things like that. This is really to help people who have multi-pronged difficulties and problems. And I'm nobody, I'm not, forget for being a scholar, I'm nobody, I'm not a great teacher, anything like that, but because I speak a little bit English, a little bit understand Buddhism a little bit. In all my talks, with just simple intention to help a little bit, to my great shock and surprise, I found many people saying, Geshe-la, your talk was very helpful. It helped me, it changed my life. Not because I have a blessing or anything like that, because people know nothing. That's why in Buddhism we say ignorance is the root cause of suffering. So this center will help remove some of this basic ignorance, greed, anger, jealousy. When His Holiness started this social emotional learning, parents from all over the universities, all over the world, they were saying, this is wonderful, this is a timely shower. Because they are experiencing this in their family, right? And there's no other solution. Today, unfortunately, the so-called guerrilla leaders are flexing their muscles, showing their ballistic missile, showing their, atom bombs, things like that. What are we doing? And in the light of Buddha's teaching, the first teaching that Buddha gave was on impermanence, death. So these days I, of course, have a lot of respect for Buddha. So by imitating him, I am telling these people, please listen. We have over 8 billion human population here on this earth today. All this over 8 billion human population is dead after 100 years counting from today. This is reality. So why the hell you are speeding up their death? So Buddha was saying, you're all going to die, why you're killing? Buddha was saying, we all have suffering, why you're creating additional suffering? As simple as that. Buddha's message, His Holiness's message, they're all so simple, so easy to practice. The problem is we don't practice. So therefore, perhaps because of this reason, they asked me to speak on this contemporary application of contemplative practice. So contemplative, we use the word not thinking, contemplative, which is much deeper than thinking. Contemplate, think a little bit deeper. What is the meaning of human life? How can we address the problem of environment, suffering, and so forth? Then you will find the answer. Of all things that you need to know, you are the most important thing, that you first know yourself. And somebody said that yesterday I was clever, I tried to change the world. Today I'm wise, I'm changing myself. That's the only solution. That's the only solution. So therefore, maybe last, there are many more topics, but I don't want to linger on. These days, in my own way, I have started paying homage to the law of nature, which is I think, which does not contradict paying homage to shunyata. That's my only comfort. Having seen all these nasty works done by all these leaders, then at the end, the solace comes by thinking, okay, all these nasty leaders, it's only a matter of time, they will all go. They solve the problem, right? So therefore, my last point is, in tune with the teaching of the Buddha, it's extremely important to understand the law of nature. You call it impermanence, you call it interdependent origination, you call it emptiness, whatever you call it. It's so important to know this, that we are all going to die, Therefore, the rest of the remaining period of our life, we should live nicely, happily, help each other. Don't make discrimination. Law of nature does not make discrimination. When COVID-19 came, it did not make discrimination. It affected everybody, from China, from America, and everybody it affected. It did not make discrimination. When there is a flood, it does not make discrimination. When there is an earthquake, it does not say that I will move and shake only the Tibetans, not the Chinese. It shakes and moves everybody. It does not make discrimination. Who is making discrimination? Our stupid human mind. So therefore, it is really, really important to, get down and develop these practices, including contemplative practices. And the contemplative practices, meditation, mindfulness, all this cannot be done unless you have ethical, moral background. So in Buddhism, ethical, moral background means developing good qualities, restraining negative deeds, and the most important thing is helping others. That is Buddhist morality. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Geshe-la. We have little time for comments and questions. Yes.
My humble respects and thank you, Geshe-la, for this contemplation. I'm also one of those who deeply believe in the values of contemplating the reality of the world, and particularly when you mention about the destitute of the poverty and other issues, which moves me, because I strongly believe this world is moved not because of the fulfillment, but because of the hunger. And also by the paradoxes. His Holiness Dalai Lama has said many aspects about the paradoxes of the mind, the paradoxes of the modernity. I wish to ask you, in a very humble way, is it because of the lack of harmony between the mind and action that we see this contradiction or the paradox that you enlightened us?
True. I think it is. Hello. That's why these three processes of study, listening, I'm not using the word hearing, listening, contemplation, meditation, these three processes of practice which is taught in Buddhism is extremely important. First, in order to remove your superficial ignorance, you need to listen to qualified teachers. And having listened to the teaching, you gain at least some information, some knowledge. Hopefully it's a little bit more deeper knowledge. And having gained that knowledge, most of the people, they go to a teaching, listen to a teacher, that's the end of the story. That does not help much. It's like a man who is thirsty and looking for water, who has no idea where water is available. So for that person, first it is important to ask somebody where water is available. And if that somebody tells the person that water is available 2 kilometers from here, that's very good. At least you have no idea, you have heard where water is available. But that does not solve your thirst. So the second practice of contemplation, thinking, is like walking 2 kilometers. When you walk 2 kilometers, you reach near the water, you are able to see it, you are very close to be able to drink water, but still you have not drunk water, so your thirst will not be quenched. Nobody will say that I walked 2 kilometers, I am reached near the water, thank you, my thirst is gone. Nobody will say things like that. So the third, so the second step, contemplation, brings that conviction of the truth of their teaching, the subject that you have studied. So that's a big progress. But unfortunately, many times we think this is the end of the story. And then we don't do it, repeatedly do it as a part of our daily life. So meditation, these days, unfortunately, many people, meditation means sitting in a corner, closing your eye, observing certain postures. That's not meditation. Maybe a little bit, but not the main one. The main one, as Tsongkhapa says in his text, we are controlled by our mind. Our mind is predominantly controlled by negative emotions. Therefore, we are suffering. So therefore, now you need to make your mind habituated with the positive qualities, positive emotions. So therefore, once you develop this conviction, then you need to live in practice. This is very, very difficult, including me. I've seen many great teachers and talkers, things like that. Very good in talking, very good in teaching. You have some kind of conviction also, but then you fail again miserably because you are surrounded by, so many different people, so many different attractions. I'll just say one word, then I'll stop. When I was in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, I used to, of course, attend all His Holiness teachings. And while His Holiness was giving teaching, I used to write a note. I'm very, very inspired. And then I think, I'll practice. I'll really practice. Then as soon as the teaching is over and I step outside the threshold of the temple, it really looks like saying, welcome back to the familiar world. That is where our practice lasts, you see. So unless you make intentional motivation and pull your resource and energy, everything together, make some dedication, practice is really difficult. But I'm not saying impossible.
I just want to add to what you have said. It is Gandhi's understanding of his life and the message that comes across is the same, that it is Atma Nirikshan, Atma Parikshan, Atma Shodhan, and for this you have to be eternally vigilant.
Exactly.
So without eternal vigilance it doesn't come, and that is the acceptance. So my only question was that how do you address the Charvaks? Because the Charvaks would not even believe that there is something like other than the body. So our problem is that if the world is almost moving like Yavat Jivat Shatam Sukham Jivet Ranam Kritva Ghritam Pibet, if that is what is the mantra of today, there how do I take this across? All this philosophy, this wisdom that I have, I think that is the question we have to confront, and there I think this contemplative education is perhaps one way of doing it. This is just a comment. Thank you.
Yeah. As if adding fuel to the fire, when we say Charvak, it's not only the philosophic, school Charvak, but most of the people living in the world today, they are all Charvak. so that's an uphill task. But I will never say that they are incorrigible. So we should make effort, things change. Thank you.
We are able to end the session in time. I was asked to chair this session. The session was named The Nature of Reality. And this booklet also put the timing: presentation 20 minutes, comments and questions 10 minutes. So I have been a timekeeper. I try to keep it sincerely. At some time, a thought come to my mind: we control the time, or the time is controlling we are. So this is a question unanswered. And then second thought to come to my mind is nature of reality. Nature, one word; reality is another word in English. In English, we have three different words: the fact, the nature, the fact, the reality, and the truth. The organizers and the speakers have taken all these three as synonym, or there are some different approach to these three different words. So that was come to my mind. Of course, there's no time to ask question or expecting for the reality. So my responsibility is to conclude the 10th schedule, which is a controlling force to all humanity. And in reality, as the last speaker have said, that impermanence, transitoriness. The transitoriness is showing each second by this watch, but we are not able to realize it. One of the Tibetan scholars have said, we are trying to find out the difficult question of reality or the truth, but we are not able to see the clear fact which is before us is running out of time. The running of the time as a transitoriness or impermanence thing for whole of the world. That may be the biggest reality. Thank you very much for all the speakers, the commentators and the questioners. And now we are closing for lunch. Thank you very much.